I feel like we've always been so unique in our relationship in that we genuinely like each other, not just love each other, but like each other and always want to be around each other. You probably know where this is going. During this time, I didn't like him. I didn't like him. I mean,
if I don't have my identity in Christ, then I have nothing. And so when that was stripped away, there was a freedom of now we can build on the right foundation. And now none of these things, while these accolades are appreciated now, I'm not holding on to them. They're not me. And so I don't think there's another way for me where I was. He had to, because he had lifted me up, like I had to come down.
Well, hello, and welcome to today's episode of The Spark. On today's podcast, Kara and I are excited to have some of our friends, Joe and Brittany Williams. They are amazing entrepreneurs. They love God. They're a power couple. I'm excited for you to get to know them, and we're going to hear some of their stories today. This is going to be good times.
It's going to be so much fun.
So, Joe, I know a little bit about you. You've come up with a tech background. You guys own multiple companies. You're doing new startups and new things all the time. We thought it'd be fun today to have you guys on just to speak kind of from your background and depth of experience on what it is to be a kingdom entrepreneur, a father, a husband, and a leader, and do that in a godly way.
And for those of you that don't know Brittany, she is a mom extraordinaire. And on top of that, she is a businesswoman. She has her own assisted living that she runs with an amazing team. But the caveat to that is that they own that together. So they each have their own lanes, but then they cross paths.
Oh man, this sounds familiar. Yes.
Yes, it does.
So before you guys teamed up together as a power couple, Brittany, how did your professional career start?
so I was on a path to getting my to become a physical therapist, and that switched quickly when I saw a lady walking around the nursing home, and I thought, well, what's her job? It looks important, and I wanted that one. So it was nursing home administrator. So I started to go down that path, and from there I worked in probably every department in long-term care, from the skilled nursing, memory care to corporate office, and then took a leap and started Bright Haven Senior Living.
Let me get this right. You didn't in high school go to a guidance counselor or hear a voice from God saying you're going to own and run assisted living facilities across the state,
No.
across the country. You just said, God, I'm available, and you went to work.
Well, something like that. I definitely did not go to my guidance counselor and entrepreneur was not on my path, at least in my eyes. I had a passion for the elderly, and that's when I felt that spark, well, at the time, it was a very unfamiliar feeling of there's something about being here that I enjoy. It's a different sort of like a patience, something that is just
The grace.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was just, it didn't feel like anything that I felt when I'm, doing other jobs or even being in school and going after things that I thought I enjoyed.
So we get a lot of entrepreneurs come,
Yeah.
they go, man, I want to start something new, but I don't know what. And or what's the one reason they usually say they want to start it, right?
It's to make money.
Oh.
And a lot of times well, not a lot of times, it's never about the money. It's about what did God put in your heart. And on that note, Joe, Brittany told us how she got into the assisted living memory care sector. Did God call you to tech, or was there an innate thing, or like what drew you to that industry? And then how does God flourish you in that industry in your call?
Did you find your skills early on the Nintendo or the Xbox?
I did not. I would say that I'm an atypical tech guy. How I got into tech in the first place was money. Senior year of high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I found that they were speaking about everyone being in student loan debt. So I went to Glassdoor.com, looked at industry outlooks, and computer engineer was top on that list. So I said, I'll become an engineer. I won't have student loan debt. That's how I figured it out.
And Brittany's laughing because Brittany, he researched
I didn't know
his
what
first career
was
before he
Senior.
decided what he wanted to do. That's what I love about Joe. Joe's so strategic.
Yes.
It shouldn't surprise me because now I know you've been CTOs of startups, companies, you own your own companies. So what is kind of that career arc? What is that path God had you on? And did you know early that it was coming?
I think I knew early on in my career because the way that God accelerated my career path. So I actually got into a bit of trouble my senior year in college during a basketball game. And I may or may not have been slammed to the ground and retaliated. So so I started off...
the statute of limitations is probably expired.
Yes. I may have put my hands on a grown man and received an equivalent charge for it.
Peter did as well. You're
it was at that time, there was a mentor of mine that came to me one day and he just whispered in my ear. He said, "Hey, have you ever thought about going back to school?" So about a week later, I felt a pull. I enrolled in school, graduated 2 years later, and 3 months after that, got an opportunity to have my first executive role, in which I wouldn't have been able to present at the board if I didn't have my MBA that I got 3 months prior.
That's awesome. You can see God was involved all along.
The entire way.
I heard you mention mentor.
Yep.
I know both of you guys are in programs where you mentor. You're in programs where you're in business groups. We've actually all been in business groups together. So tell me a little bit about the significance of mentors in your early development.
I always feel like God placed women in my life for the appropriate season for that time. When I look back, I look at these women that were so critical at that time because I just didn't have it at home. And so I would say they mentored me in a way of like more nurturing. And then as I then got older, it's like the mentors changed. So more business, more entrepreneur type relationships.
So as you guys have been working together separately in different areas, but then also together, and there's momentum behind your business, how do in the form of mentorship, how do you guys stay where people are speaking into your life? Like what parameters or bumper rails have you guys put in place to make sure that you have people helping you grow and calling things out and all the wise counsel that we all need as business owners? Like, what have you guys put in place?
So we made a commitment years ago to be in therapy, to have individual couples therapy, a safe space for us to talk through things, have accountability for the most part. So we have that. We've been a part of business groups. We're submitted to our friends, whether they have a business or not. We're very transparent with how we live our life and how we communicate, and we always give everyone the right to speak into our lives.
I want to circle back around to, we've known you for a few years now, and since we've known you, it's been a hectic pace. There's been expansion, new companies, acquisitions, startups. There's just been a lot in your life, and that's one thing Kara and I were talking about when we were like, hey, we'd love to have them on. You were over managing, I think, quite a few employees, right? Yeah. Overseeing a good-sized network. And then you just said, this is no longer challenging. I want to go into business. What happened there? How did God call you to that?
I was working for a company that had 31 skilled nursing facilities. We had 2,300 team members. At that time, I was the head of HR, so overseeing all of human resources. COVID just finished, or it was the tail end of COVID. And I feel like everyone took a beating in healthcare. I just got burnt out during that time. And at that time, Joe, he needed an operator for the tech company. And really, I thought, well, I don't want to do this anymore. I'll take a stab at that. And that lasted all of 6 months, maybe not even 6 months. It's a blur. Was it 6 months?
On paper.
Yeah.
Joe, I've got a serious question for you. Was she the best employee you've ever had?
Gosh, he loves telling this.
And there's only one right answer. This is being filmed.
If I'm being honest, let me think about it. She was the worst employee I've ever had. She was the worst employee at the time. She had a very, I'll say, contributor mindset. She wanted to be in a certain area, manage that, build it up, kind of live there. And when she became kind of more on the entrepreneur side, she had to manage multiple things at once, let some fires burn while she attacked some things. That was not her wheelhouse. And Brittany does very well when she has a plan. And I kind of brought her in and said, hey, here are the needs. You go figure out how to do it because I trust you.
So, Brittany, I'm guessing you nominated him for Boss of the Year.
Oh no, because when he's telling you the story of here's what you have, go ahead and do it. It's like you ever had someone say, "Here, take this. I want you to, do what you will." They're
looking over your shoulder,
watching you the whole. No, that's fine. Oh, you did that. Oh, yeah, that's so. It wasn't like the true do what you will, right?
Yes.
So I got thrown into an industry that I use. I love tech, but to be on the other side of it, and then managing people
with your husband.
It was the worst time of my life. It was not what I thought when I left the job, as far as we're going to do this together. We're going to build this company and it's going to be amazing.
Everything's going to be great.
Everything's going to be great. Now, I knew it was going to be rocky, but.
Well, Kara and I kind of had a similar experience. You came out of corporate healthcare.
I did.
And you were going to come over and help clean up the construction company.
Yes.
Whip all these subcontractors into shape. It was going to be easy. They just needed some spreadsheets.
They just needed to learn how to document. They needed to learn how to put things in order.
And you were going to work with the love of your life, which was going to be amazing.
It was. Such grandeur in my mind. Now, I didn't have any expectations that it was going to be rocky because I had no grid that the construction industry had. It was the Wild Wild West, and I had no idea.
Okay.
And so at the end of our first year of working together, we go every year to marriage counselors or marriage coaches. And we went and they said, "How was you guys' first year?" I said, "It was amazing." And they look at Kara and they go, "How was it?"
And I said, "I don't know where he's been living the last year. It was horrible. Horrible."
But did you get fired?
I didn't get fired because I was over operations, so he couldn't fire me. I was the only person at the time.
So do you actually, when you fire your wife, just for anybody watching that may have to do this,
yes.
do you actually give them a pink slip or like, how's this done? Because I've never heard of this.
Well, maybe the right way. I told her, I said, "Hey, you're going to have to find something else to do because you can't do that here. You can't do it here." And the third time I fired her, I found out she was pregnant. So I said, "You know what? It's okay. Yeah. It's fine."
So
you're
now,
going to be a stay-at-home
I
wife.
only know about one of the firings. When he tells this story, he says, the first time I heard this story, he says, "Yeah, I fired her 3 times. I said, "What?" I only knew about one. Like, what happened?
Well, for sure
with
you didn't get to the
other
third
two?
one because you gave me a pregnancy test. And I said, "Well, maybe I'm the problem."
Because even though I was fired, you still have to keep me on. You can't just replace me that easily.
I want to pull on this thread a little bit more because you said, the third time you realized, well, maybe I am the problem. How did you guys navigate that? You have very different expectations.
Yeah.
You think something's going on one way, and she thinks she's been fired once, but you think she's been fired 3 times. Like, what did that show you guys about how to work together?
It was a true moment where I said, maybe I didn't put the things in place for her to be successful. Yeah. Like I kind of calmed down because now I'm looking at her as Mommy Britt, and I said, "You know what? I didn't give her a training plan. I kind of threw her into it." Those are the things I thrive on, and that's not her bent. I knew that coming in, but I also knew even if she did that, she would be successful because she figured it out. And in this case, it gave us the opportunity to figure out this is not the right seat on the boat because she's gifted and can do it. I trust her. I know she'd be great at it, but that's not what she's called to do. Mm-hmm. And fortunately for us, around that same time is when the other opportunity came up. Unhealthily told her that this is what I feel like God is calling us to do, so we are entrepreneurs and to get with it.
So it was more of a draft than a calling.
It was a draft.
Brittany, I see behind the scenes, God had been setting you up for years for this, right?
Yes,
because now that we can see the other side of this, we see what a phenomenal entrepreneur and a business owner you are, how you manage your teams and your staff at multiple locations. Why were you nervous to step in?
For me, it was the risk. I was afraid of the risk, the liability. If the business failed, it's not just my family, but, depending on how large your business is, hundreds of families that are impacted. And I was scared of taking on that responsibility. So later on, after we started Brighthaven, I went to my former boss and I said, "Why is it as an employee, I feel like payrolls don't come around soon enough? It's like, when are we getting paid?" And I said, as soon as I became an employer,
come on,
I'm like, why are we doing payroll again? Why are we doing payroll again? This is crazy. They just got paid. So it's just completely different.
So when you say we acquired a business, was it beautiful, running just like they said, and did everything you hoped it would do?
No, no.
You mean it's not exactly what people say?
No, it was, and I walked. Now, mind you, we did due diligence because
Sure.
I've been in acquisitions before at the corporate level where we acquired, different facilities all the time. There's just things that no matter how well you think you can be prepared and plan and you have your list, once you get into it, it's always something. And in our case, it was something after something after something after something.
During this same time, you're an exec at a startup, so everything must have been going great for you.
It was for about 2 months. So Brittany signed her contract for this company 2 days after her C-section with our second child. She
Yes.
left the hospital a day early.
Now, mind you, when you're pregnant for 5 years, your brain, there's all kinds of hormones and there's mommy brain and pregnancy brain. That's a real thing. And when I say
Tell me
pregnant
about
for
it.
5 years, it's because, we've had babies, lost, births, like it's been,
Yeah.
So, when we acquired the business, I went to the hospital and on a Thursday and had my C-section Thursday afternoon. We checked out Friday at like 5 p.m. So a little over 24 hours later, and we're in the hospital, mind you, signing the documents. And Joe's over there, drawing up the agreements and everything. And literally Saturday, I'm like nursing and on the laptop and writing policies and getting calls, because the other thing, when someone's like, stepping out of their business, they can't give it up soon enough. They were ready to
Right.
give us the keys. Like, yes. I mean, if I could have taken calls while I'm on the operating table, then I'm sure that would have been ideal. But so we didn't have a single break at all.
Yep. So we took over end of March, April, and I was named in a lawsuit. I was running a company, lost my largest contract at the exact same time. Part of that in our wisdom was we knew that the company was in disrepair. We were taking it over for some friends that had moved into full-time ministry. The contingency for capital that we needed was because my company was generating sufficient cash flow. And so if something happened, we had a backstop. So when I named in a lawsuit, I lose my largest contract. I have a payroll at that time of about $50,000 a month. Her payroll ended up growing to 30, 35. So all that happened in a split. So we went the next several months.
So I've got a question for
Yep.
you. God knew this was coming.
Yep.
He didn't warn you. He gave you the green light to go ahead and buy this company.
Yeah.
He gave you the green light to go ahead and partner and work with this group. Why did he do that? Knowing that there would be opposition, resistance, or maybe even failure in certain areas. Why did he green light? I think this is so many people, we were just talking about this. So
Yes.
many people come in, they're like, well, I tried this and I failed. But this is what I want to iterate. When we
Yes.
meet couples like this that are doing extraordinary things, it isn't that they've never failed. It's that they failed multiple times, but they just didn't stop. How did you know to keep going?
I believe God took us through that because there are things you learn in relationship and about God's character and develop within yourself that can only be learned through suffering. And so
That's not popular to preach.
it's not. But the Bible says that Jesus learned obedience through the things that he suffered, right? And we know that suffering produces perseverance. So there are things that you can only get through suffering. And up until that point, we have had a grace on our lives such that however hard things were, God had given us the ability to think our way through it. We had favor with promotions and influence and people. And when you talk about persevering in this moment, we always say we would write a book. What would you do if you can't quit? It's not that we said, you know what, we're going to power through.
Yeah.
I looked for ways to get out of it. I sure did. And at a certain point, I submitted myself to God and said, okay, there's something you want to do here. And we're submitted to the process, whatever it looks like.
So how did you do that? People are like, okay, that sounds great. Submit to the Lord. What did that look like practically for you guys together?
Well, I will take you through a quick journey with me. When it started for me, my wife had always said she had known me to do hard things. I could decide to do a marathon at the last minute, train for 4 weeks, and go run 26 26 miles. I'd
True
always
story.
face things.
Wow.
I'd always face things head on. Conflict has never scared me. I don't like conflict. I just know what.
You don't
So-
run from
yeah,
it.
I don't run from it.
Yeah.
There are things that happen when you avoid issues. And so this was something that both literally and figuratively brought me to my knees. I was in a position where I was named in a lawsuit by a company that 6 months prior was in tears at a Christmas party saying that the company would be bankrupt had God not sent me there. Only to find out 6 months later that I hadn't done anything that I said I would do and I had done all these things. It was very traumatic for me. And the biggest thing was in that moment, I had non-believers standing up on the side of what I felt like was unrighteousness, saying all these things that were untrue. And I was looking to those who said that they believe what I believe to just stand up and say the truth. But for fear of the same kind of retaliation, not many of those people stood up. So I was wrestling with an identity crisis, not realizing before that time that I had placed my self-worth and in my relationship in God with what he had done for me and through me and the things I had been able to achieve. And secondly, that I came to the realization that I didn't actually trust him. I had trusted in the gifts that he had given me, the resources, the backstops. And when I had reached the end of myself, I realized that it was a very hard thing to actually believe that he still loved me and that he was going to have my back and that it didn't look the way that it had in the past. There was a progression of that relationship.
So, Brittany, while he's going through this metamorphosis, I'm sure he was the most pleasant individual.
No,
No?
I feel like we've always been so unique in our relationship in that we genuinely like each other, not just love each other, but like each other and always want to be around each other. You probably know where this is going. During this time, I didn't like him. I didn't like him. I mean, and it was, like he said, it was very unfamiliar to me to see him doing things like he does the hard things. He does the things that most people can't tackle. He figures it out. And like he also said, we were always just had so much favor. Both of us knew it was favor and we knew it was God. I don't think either one of us felt like this was our own talent that was doing these things, because we would get just promotions at the same time, and we would get opportunities where they would say, I don't know why I'm going to hire you, but I'm going to hire you. You don't have the skill set for this. You don't have this degree. You don't have this certification, but I'm going to bring you on board. That happened so many times. And every time we would go into someone's company and it would, explode in their department, or we would get, just so much favor. Yeah. So when this happened, I thought, this is not going to last that long, because the Lord is going to show up and he's going to do what he does. He's going to, it's going to be victory and we're going to come out of this. And then after the first few months, and then by the end of the year, it's like, well, Lord, hello. When are you coming to do the thing?
I wish God would have told us sooner that he doesn't care about our year. I mean, I think business people, we all kind of measure everything in our fiscal year and think about it. We always it was a good year. Yeah. It was a bad year. And one of the primary indicators is, did we make money? Yeah. Did we build team? Did we increase our revenue? Yeah. God doesn't measure our success in our fiscal year. He measures it in a lifetime. So he's totally okay, I've learned, to come in, mess up your backstops, your program, and your plan for that year or a couple of years, because he has a lifelong plan for you.
It was tough. It was literally the hardest time for us, just relationship wise. Mind you, this is going on and we are having our third child. So not only our relationship is being impacted just from being a new mom and now having a growing family, and then you have the lawsuit, and then you have the startup business. And at some points, I felt like I needed someone to blame. I didn't want to blame God. So Joe was the next best person.
So, he was available.
Yes.
So there you go.
So there were times I would blame him because not that it was something that he did to ignite it or start it, but someone had to be the release of the stress that was happening. And at times I felt like I was his punching bag, And at times he was my
No.
Yeah.
punching bag.
So,
So
Joe, I remember at one point you and I were having lunch and you were talking about this lawsuit, and we just kind of were praying together. And I think the conclusion we came to, sometimes a lot of people, we put so much strategy into. You had gamed out in your mind every possible way this lawsuit could go. And in that moment, we were discussing it, and we just said, hey, what about if the Holy Spirit wanted to do something different?
Yeah.
What about if we
Good.
just gave it to him because it's his money? It's his concern. If he wants to repay you, because you were owed a lot of money at the time, a large chunk of money. And what I was really impressed is when I was kind of first getting to know you, was you were willing to walk away from what would be a lifetime chunk of money for a lot of people if that's what the Lord wanted you to do. And I said, here's the kind of person I want to align myself with. So when we're looking for people to do business with, ministry with, life with, and now we've done some business together, we're doing
Yes.
some fun stuff together. We're looking for people that haven't always won. We're looking for people who know how to lose with honor. And, Karen and I said this before, everybody always thinks that a good negotiation in business is a win-win. But what about if the Holy Spirit wants you to take a loss? So better than a win-win would be his will be done.
Yes.
So I remember when we were sitting there, Brazilian Steakhouse, thank you, Jesus, for Brazilian Steakhouse. We were sitting there and you prayed that, and we were talking through that. Tell me a little bit about that. How did you come to a place where you're okay going, God, take it all, whatever you want?
Well, it was really through that process where I started to reflect on the new relationships and what God was doing in our marriage and just our incoming baby girl. And I realized that it was good for me that I was afflicted, that I wouldn't have gotten to this place, to the end of myself, to truly be in that depth of relationship and have the opportunity to trust him, if not for him taking me through these things. Because I had the Bible says not to think more of yourself than you ought to. And I had a different estimation of who I was. I thought I was that guy, and I was not. And so my wife had a conversation with me early on. She said, hey, I've known you to always do the hard thing. I don't even know how to support you. Like this guy, he's unfamiliar. But ultimately, the truth I had to face in the mirror shortly before our conversation is, no, I'm this guy. This is who I am. When the pressure got on, this is who I've always been, because I have been dependent on me. And so I realized shortly before that I couldn't have what God was doing now with those old wineskins. So, and I wasn't willing to give up who I was becoming, the people he had put in my life, where we were going, and the foundation we would now be able to set for that former glory.
Wow. Now, Brittany, the other side of that, like we know where his heart was. Like, how are you during this process? Where was your heart? And you told him, I don't even know how to support you right now. So what was going on in your mind and heart of being the helpmate that God's called us to be as wives? Like, what were you feeling and processing at that time as well?
I was drowning. I was just overwhelmed with building a business, and it is something that I've always done naturally as far as being a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
Since I started as a CNA, I know how to be a caregiver, but now I have to lead other people and show them, teach them, but then also I'm census building the business and putting in the standard operating procedures. And this is, since it's a startup, I'm a one-woman, show as far as I'm wearing all the hats. I'm doing the admissions. I'm doing all the clinical. I'm doing all the things. And I couldn't even show up at home because by the time I'm exhausted. And when I'm here or there, I'm just so depleted that when I said I can't support you, then I only had enough energy to say I can't support you.
Wow.
And so it's easy I've always been someone that could work hard. In college, I had 3 jobs. So my caregivers always tease me and say, do you ever sleep? Like, when do you sleep? Like, you don't, I always see you up, you're answering the phone, you're doing this. And my reply back to them is, no, I haven't slept in college. This is just how I was created. So I had 3 jobs in college. I didn't sleep then. I don't sleep now. And that was so that even though it sounds hard, it was easy for me coming home and then being a wife was difficult. Being a mom was easier in terms of since I was the oldest sibling and I know how to take care of people. Those skills translate to motherhood and being a mom. But being a wife, that was something that just kept getting put on the back burner and just kept getting on the put as not a priority because I knew that Joe could take care of himself. And so my plan was I'll pick it back up, at some point once the business was successful, once the kids aren't, once I'm not nursing anymore, when they can be a little more self-sufficient. And what we realized through therapy and just through tough conversations, because Joe looked at me and he said, I don't like conflict, because I wouldn't know that during that time. I'm like, why are we always arguing? Like, do you like this? So during those tough conversations, he is very good about explaining and saying how he feels, what he needs. And for me, it just felt like attack after attack, because I'm in the trenches out there and then come home and it's like I just wanted to disassociate. Like, I don't want to check in and do the hard things here. I'm already doing the hard things there.
And that's the difference between being an employee and being an owner.
Yep.
Right? People don't see the behind the scenes. It never shuts
It doesn't stop.
off.
Yeah.
It does not stop. Matter of fact, you guys, you came here today and we just had a massive snow and ice storm in Dallas.
Yeah.
And for anybody who thinks you may want to start a business, I love this story. I was like, what have you guys been doing? You said, I've been...
Yes. Well, we were shuttling caregivers from their houses, and I was dispatched making sure caregivers got to work. And so as soon as, you get that call or text, the roads are bad, I'm not going to be able to make it in. I said, yes, you will. Don't worry. We'll get you there. Pack a bag. And so Joe was picking people up. I was calling Uber, calling Lyft. I'm like, okay, give me your address. You live 6 minutes from here, so you're going to go there. Joe's going to come, pick you up here, and then you're going to go to this location. And then I'm going to move. I mean, it was like Tetris, or what's the game where you're like moving people around? That's how it was.
With 3 kids at home out of daycare.
Yeah, because they're screaming in the back, I want to eat. I'm like, what? We have to feed you? Come on.
So with all of this pressure, ice storms, startup, lawsuits, what did you learn about yourselves as leaders? And then what did you learn about yourself as a couple?
So I'll go couple first. That grit, don't quit, right? So mostly what we took out of it is that throughout that entire process, we were committed to each other. We couldn't show up in the way that we would have liked. And in retrospect, the way that I would have liked wasn't good for me. But I know that when I got up in the morning, when I laid my head down at night, she had all 10 toes down and we were in it together, whether or not the specific areas I wasn't in, what she was in. I had my experience with what I was dealing with, but at the end of the day, I knew that she would be there. And when we say those vows, you don't know when the sickness comes, when the pressure hits, if they will actually be there. And I know that she has my back.
Yeah.
We also now know that Joe is harder to take care of than 2 toddlers and an infant.
Oh, for sure.
I am.
2 toddlers, an infant, and 30 caregivers. Like,
Yeah, pretty tough.
yeah.
I don't know what he's laughing at.
But part of it was there's an idolatry that can happen with you wanting to be understood. Like I didn't really want anybody to do anything for me. I just wanted everyone to know that hell was raining down, and this is how it makes me feel. Right? I didn't need anybody to come and sit with me or do anything. I just needed you to pause for long enough. But that was unnecessary. That was really unnecessary. What it forced me to do was go to God, do those things that we talk about, and say, look, my wife has no capacity for me. We have talked about this. She literally doesn't have the capacity. In this season, it's not like she abandoned me. We went to therapy and we said, look, this is what I have to give you right now, and I'm not your source. God is. So I need to go work that out. I ended up meeting Preston Morrison at an event. It was just dealing with a lot of fear. And I felt like the Holy Spirit said, talk to him. And he said, hey, that's my thing. I like to talk to people. And so we had a meeting and he said, look, you have all this strategy. Stop it. You need to get intimate.
That's good.
That's
You need to get
awesome.
with God. And I knew in my intellectual mind, this is what I need to do. And I also said, I don't have the capacity to do it. And for a couple of days, I went back and forth in my quiet time. I'd have about 3 minutes in, and then the anxiety would hit. I have all these things to do, still run the business, still operating in this capacity. My lawyer can call me and derail me for 4 hours because at this point I'm writing my own petitions and counters and all those things. And at a certain point I said, Brittany, a couple of days in, she said, you know what? People who are actually in a relationship with Jesus, I don't think they would behave like you're behaving. And it was a very tough thing to say,
That's awesome.
but she said, hey, if you actually trusted him and you're in a relationship, would you be this manic? You're
Wow.
And I said, I can't stand you. And you're exactly right. So at this point, that was part of that process where I started to say, you know what? Whatever it is that you want to do, because I've tried my way, it's not working. And I know throughout this process that you're trying to refine something in me. So let me investigate what that is and try to get to that so I'm not in this 40 years too long. Yeah.
We would find ourselves like bonding over like
Trauma.
toxic, yes, like just complaining about what's going on around us and in this spiral of, and finally, one day I said, like, we're complaining too much. Like, this is just toxic for both of us. And it's like this was our way of like, this is how we connected. And it was just terrible because it was all the negative things that are happening to us and, you know, who's not showing up and what we don't have. And can you believe, you know, another request coming in and just terrible way of thinking.
So how do you snap out of that? You find yourself in that funk. You didn't plan on being there. You love Jesus. You know better.
Yep.
But that doesn't help.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
It's like, for me, this conviction just like overwhelmed me of just stop and looking around. And I'm like, like, look at where we are complaining, you know, and this is.
Brittany helped me snap out of it because she doesn't normally like to correct me. But in this particular case, she just said, look, I don't have a bunch of words, but you're not the leader I need you to be in this household. You're not the dad that I know you want to be. So get yourself together. And then she just walked off. And she was like, she said, that's what you like, don't you? And I just said, okay. I called one of my friends and I said, well, these are facts. Something has to change. Because we know all the right things, right? We've read our Bible, we prayed, we know all the right things. And then about 365 times we need to either take courage or fear not and do what we need to do. So that's what kind of snapped me out of it. It was the release. Like when your identity is no longer tied into it, like, okay, it's been I was slandered across 7 states. Like, it's done. Like, all that is, I need to have.
Like Jesus, you were a man of no reputation.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So if I don't have my identity in Christ, then I have nothing. And so when that was stripped away, there was a freedom of, now we can build on the right foundation. And now none of these things, while these accolades are appreciated now, I'm not holding on to them. They're not me. And so I don't think there's another way for me where I was. He had to, because he had lifted me up, like, I had to come down, and it was good for me.
So that should make anybody who's not in business want to be in business. but there is light at the end of the tunnel. So as you guys came out of the cave, you started cleaning up culture at your company. You started working with another company. You're now involved in another startup. You guys just acquired another property. You're looking at some additional properties in the senior living space. So why are you guys so willing to dive headlong in again for round 2?
So however difficult this has been, it also gave us an opportunity to see who we were, give us the opportunity to develop in real time in humility, because you're vulnerable as an entrepreneur. You're standing out in front of your employees. All the responsibility, the things that happen go straight to the bottom line. It's you. So there's not a lot of room for you to say and point the finger at someone else. And as part of that, without that experience or without this, I wouldn't know God in the way that I know him. So entrepreneurship is my pursuit of being more intimate with God, knowing who he is and knowing what he's called us to do and how we're supposed to impact his people. Yep.
What's one or two things that you wish someone would have told you sooner? As you know, Johnathan said, you're heading long back into a startup and acquiring new things. What, on the other side of this, what are one or two things that you would share with the people listening or watching that you wish someone would have told you sooner?
It's not going to fall apart. In my mind, if I don't answer that call, if I do take the sabbatical, like someone's going to die. Someone's not going to get their medication. Someone's not, like, in my mind, the end of the world, was going to happen. It doesn't. So even us being on this podcast, I don't have my phone on. It's not on, ring or vibrate. 2 years ago, there's no way. We're going to have to put it over there. I'm going to have to be able to see it because someone might call. It's prioritizing those things. Like, this is important. And so sabbatical, us going away, that's important.
And I would say for me is that failure is a part of the process. So if God calls you to this thing, our responsibility is to be obedient and steward that as best as we can, wise counsel, trying to understand the best things that we can do. But I view what God's called us to do differently. If it had gone to zero, which it didn't, by the grace of God, I wouldn't have believed that was any less a part of our process. In a counter to the words that we've been given in terms of prosperity and business and things, I understand that he has a longer vision, and that can be a part of the process. But that is a potentially a losing battle in a enduring war and not the end. And I think when we got into entrepreneurship, it was like, if we can't make this work, then we're failures. Instead of saying, God, you might want this to fail. This might be a 2-year thing. What if he is saying, let it go? And so we got to the point in our conversation when we met and you said, hey, what if God wants you to let this go? And I start looking at that like, hey, this is what God's calling us to and calling my wife to in this realm. It doesn't mean it's with these 4 properties. So when we learn to let go and really say, whatever it is that you want to do, we're going to steward this as best as we can. We're not failures. I don't want it, but I'm not going to press so hard in a direction that he doesn't want me to go for my pride and to keep this up.
Entrepreneurs don't have an off button.
Yeah.
That's part of their gifting, but that's also their Achilles heel. So it is that, Lord, shall we pursue? Lord, should we step back? And at some points, he'll have you double down and push in when it makes no sense. At other times, when it looks like you're so close to victory, he'll say, hold on, just wait. Just wait. And it's that timing that really is what makes great leaders, great entrepreneurs.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's so beautiful. We've kind of touched on it throughout the conversation. You had a conversation here with a friend. You had a Sunday school teacher. You had all these different people. You had wise counsel. And so many times I think entrepreneurs or business owners feel stuck. And they're like, I can't get anywhere. I'm not hearing the Lord. And what we've found is because the Lord is wanting us to realize that we need other people, that the whole body functions with different pieces. And so you talking to me and you talking to Johnathan and other friends, there's perspectives that are going to come through what our experiences have been with the Lord and the way that we know the Lord. And I think that's so beautiful. And so if you're feeling stuck and you don't know what to do, get yourself surrounded with wise counsel, not people that are going to be yes people, but people that are going to speak into your life and people that are going to call things out. Say, hey, have you ever thought about this? I think that is what has been missing in the Christian marketplace so much, is that we don't utilize each other because we're scared to be called a failure and whatever hurts we have. But I think God is calling us to get past that.
Well, we're about out of time today, but we are not done with Joe and Brittany. Guys, would you come back again?
Of course.
We do this again. We have more stories to tell. I mean, a month from now, we'll have a whole news story, series of stories to tell. So we appreciate it, guys. Thank you for watching.
And if this has sparked and encouraged you, please share it with someone else and like and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye-bye.